Welcome to SCW Training Video 4, Introduction to Footings. This video will act as a beginner's guideline in going over the fundamental process we use when laying footings. A building's foundation is critical to the integrity of the whole structure. In a concrete wall footing, the forces of the wall are distributed into the earth, therefore alleviating pressure and stress. There are 10 basic steps to follow in the process of constructing these footings. Step 1. The layout. Your crew leader will be referencing two documents during the construction: the footing board and the point sheet. The footing board contains information on the size of the footing, rebar and J-bar size and spacing, where the walls will sit on the footing, and details about the job and contractor. The job number will be used for tracking all information on that job. The point sheet contains info on dimensions of the foundation, and the corner and layout stake placement. Step 2. Prepare the site. The excavation will already be dug and the layout stakes will already be placed. Under the direction of your crew leader, you'll lay a string line to connect all layout stakes, acting as a guide for where the footings will be formed. Unload the forms and place them on the ground, approximately where they'll be set up. Start with the longest forms, working your way to the shortest. Lay out steel stakes for each pocket on the footing forms. Step 3. Set the forms. Footing forms are what holds the concrete and gives it shape. Reference the footing board to determine the size of the footing and how far off the string line to build. Insert the steel stakes to connect your forms together, and hammer the stakes 3 to 4 inches into the ground to keep the forms firmly in place. Step 4. Footing ties. Footing ties are needed to hold the forms together against the weight of the concrete. Chisel a hole for each tie between the bottom two pieces of the form. You can use either a hand chisel or a cordless roto hammer. Place the tie firmly in both sides of the form. If you do not place the tie accurately, some stakes may have to be removed and reset, so be precise. Step 5. Rebar. Rebar, or reinforcing bar, acts like a skeleton that holds up the concrete, providing strength and support to the structure. It can also help to bind footing to the foundation wall, since wet concrete will not actually adhere to dry concrete on its own. You'll place rebar in between the footing forms. Rebar usually sits on top of footing ties or on top of 3-inch dobies. A lap splice joint is a method of joining two pieces of rebar overlapping to make a continuous length. J-bar is a specially bent piece of rebar designed to connect the footing and the foundation wall. J-bar has special rules for placement depending on the size of the bar. Larger J-bar are placed before pouring concrete and are pre-tied to continuous rebar. Small and simple J-bar are wet set, which means they are placed into the concrete and floated after it is poured. The number of rows and the size of rebar will always be indicated on the footing board. Ask your crew leader if you have any questions. Step 6. Setting footing grade. Shooting grade is the way we make a project level and flat, regardless of the terrain. We shoot grade at this stage to ensure a level and even surface on the top of the footings we build. To shoot grade, you will use a rotating laser. Using a receiver, you will be able to tell what is considered level. Using this guide, you'll find the correct final height for the footing. Trace in pencil on the form where the laser indicates the correct height to be. This will be the height you pour concrete to. Use a chalk string line to mark this height across all the forms. Step 7. Wall line. Transfer the wall line from the layout stakes directly onto the footing form by marking in paint or a marker on the forms where the stakes are located. Doing this at every corner will allow you to later draw a line from point to point on top of the completed footing to guide the placement of the rebar dowels. That's J-bar. Step 8. Pour concrete. The concrete will be prepared and ready to flow out from the pump hose. One worker will hold the pump hose into the footing forms and guide the pump as it fills the forms. The concrete will be poured up to the chalk line that was placed during the shooting grade step. It's worth noting that the concrete will rub the chalk line off, so pouring needs to be perfectly level to the chalk line. Don't pour any concrete outside of the footing forms. This is an environmental restriction that we could be fined for. Another worker will follow closely behind the pump with a shovel, and they will use the shovel to grade and level the concrete to the chalk line. Another worker will follow behind with a derby. They will evenly flatten and smooth out the concrete to the level of the chalk line. Step 9. J-bar and cleanup. While the concrete is wet, you will mark the wall line. Using the painted marks you place to signal the location of the layout stakes, stretch a string from point to point, then snap it onto the wet concrete to leave a line, letting you know where the foundation wall will be built. While the concrete is wet, you will also place any smaller J-bar that needs to be wet set. Remember, this is used to adhere the wall to the footing. Sometimes concrete will ooze out from under the forms. If this happens, we won't be able to strip the forms off, so clear that oozing concrete away with a shovel. Once you have wet set your J-bar, take care to clean up the worksite and collect any tools or parts that may have fallen to the ground. Step 10. Strip and load forms. Once the concrete has had a chance to set, you will be ready to strip and load the forms. SCW uses high-quality aluminum forms that are reusable. Carefully stripping the forms from the new footing and loading them back onto the truck will allow us to use the forms over and over again. Remove the stakes with a special extractor tool. Once that's finished, you'll be able to pull off the forms from the cured concrete footing. Perform a final walkthrough of the job site, picking up any tools, forms, or stakes that remain. Alright, that was a lot, so congratulations, now you understand the basics on how to set footings at SCW. Remember, there are 10 basic steps to building footings. First, use the footing board and point sheet to understand what's needed for the job. Second, prepare the site for building. You'll set string lines and place the stakes. Third, set up the forms. Use the footing board and the string line as your guide while you set up the forms and connect them with the stakes. Fourth, place footing ties to hold the forms together. Fifth, place the rebar according to the point sheet. This will be necessary to give the concrete a solid structure. Sixth, use the laser level to create an even chalk line on the footing forms. This line will guide you as you pour concrete, so make sure to get it right. Seventh, transfer the wall line from the layout stakes to the footing form. Eighth, pour concrete. Avoid touching the chalk line with wet concrete. Use a shovel and then a derby to grade, level, and flatten the concrete to the chalk line. Ninth, mark the wall line, wet set J-bar, and clean up the worksite. Be sure to clear any concrete that may have oozed out from the bottom of the forms. Finally, after the concrete has set, remove the stakes and forms for return to SCW. Be sure to double check to ensure you don't leave anything behind on site. Remember, if you are ever unsure of how to complete your task, don't be afraid to ask your crew leader. And thank you for watching.